please feel free to, stop your own video. Okay, let's see. How can I get it to just show me? Okay, whatever. Let me get this slideshow started. So this is Environmental Studies 1, Introduction to Environmental Studies. My name is Nikki Renberg. My pronouns are she, her, hers. We also have our teaching assistant here, Billy Marino, who, if you were here earlier, have heard my review of him. He is a joy and a delight, and his pronouns are he, him, his. Our lectures are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 12:30 to 1:40. We likely will just be going about an hour. Unless I go on some sort of tangent or we have a lot of pet videos, pet content to discuss. Sections, you are signed up for one of them, hopefully. I assume you are. Sections that are at Wednesday at 2 or 4 or Thursdays at 11 a.m. So hopefully that is okay for you. If you have questions about that, we can figure something out for you. So a little bit about me. My name is Nikki Renberg. Like I said, she, her. I got my bachelor's degree in English, philosophy, and American studies. I triple majored because I continue to be like an overachieving tryhard. That has not changed since I was in my 20s. My MA was in English composition. I taught writing for a while. First in my family to go to school, had a thirst to prove myself, but also just really loved writing, really loved working on giving students tools to be able to communicate, be able to think critically about things. I found myself really engaging with topics about the environment. My intro to writing classes soon became basically a different version of the class that we're going to be taking now. We talked about grammar, but we also talked about like what is nature and how do people connect with it? Why do we have the different kinds of environmental issues that we have today? Why don't people care about climate change? Why don't people care about environmental degradation? I spent a couple years teaching those classes, falling more and more down my own kind of research rabbit holes, falling passionately in love with national and state parks. By I had some free time where I was, in between teaching, where I was able to travel a lot and road trip, and I saw as many as I could. And so captivated. I was just like, oh man, I want to talk about the history of these places because there's some really cool, weird work happening that, these parks are really doing a lot of work to tell its visitors what nature is, what does it mean, and a lot of times those interpretations are fitting different kinds of state propaganda needs. They're supporting, but they're also doing useful things like supporting businesses, but then they're doing like very damaging things like creating infrastructure through ecosystems, and even worse, dispossessing and displacing, or very early on killing indigenous populations. This is crazy. This is intense. So I went to UC Santa Barbara and began my work on environmental public history, which is basically the history that I described. So it's the history of how different institutions, national state parks, also museums, even universities like ours, have created interpretations, have done work with the public to explain what different nature sites are, what they mean, how they should be used, etc. My research right now looks at the connections between US and German conservation and preservation in the 19th and 20th centuries through coast redwoods. You can see me hugging one right here. I'm a literal tree hugger. I am obsessed with coast redwoods. My whole dissertation is on them. They've been interpreted in a lot of really beautiful ways. They're some of the oldest living creatures on Earth. They're one of the oldest species that is still continuing to grow on Earth. About a fourth of the world was covered with them during the Jurassic period. Now they only grow successfully on the Northern California coast. There's lots of reasons why. I will not bore you with all of them, but Germans during the 19th and 20th centuries fell in love with them, but also fell in love with the interpretations that some of the US conservation and preservationists of redwoods had for them, which was basically steeped in white nationalism. And Nazis actually tried to create national parks that mirrored the US national parks during World War II. One of those sites was actually the city that my mom's side of the family came from in Poland. So the world is so big, but it is also so small. If you have any interest in any of the things that I described, feel free to email me and I will continue to talk your ear off. Like I said, I have multiple animals. They are usually well behaved. Buddy has a lot of opinions and a piercing bark. So if he comes around, I'm really sorry. But I have 2 dogs, Buddy and Henry, and I have 3 cats, Lando, Essie, and Mew Mew. It has happened maybe twice or 3 times during Zoom University where my face on Zoom has been replaced with a cat butt. It is not an impossibility, so just be prepared. It's usually Lando. His tail is very fluffy. Finally, another fun fact about me is I love comics, especially Marvel's X-Men. My favorite is Jean Grey. I'm also a huge Star Trek fan, also Star Wars, and basically anything fantasy. I'm a huge nerd, obviously because I'm teaching this class, but I'm a huge nerd in other facets of my life. During my BA and MA, I was interested in the history of comics, specifically how they were used during the civil rights movement, but also like in a different kind of bit of research, how Marvel Comics, especially during the 1930s to 1960s, were used as tools of propaganda, and especially like Captain America and their back portion, their letters to the editor columns were actually places of discussion about whether or not America should be at war at different times. So all of this to say is I'm very excitable. I have a lot of interests and I am here for any and all that you would like to pursue, especially environmental ones, but I've got some other ones as well. So a class overview. So I don't know. Okay. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. I want to make sure that that on the recording people are only seeing me, but I don't think that is a possibility. Okay. Okay, so class overview. Introduction to Environmental Studies. ES1 is the first course in a 3-quarter series that provides an introduction to environmental studies as a subject and a major. This can be followed by, or people do the series out of order, but this is thematically followed by ES2, which focuses on the biophysical environment, and then ES3, which explores the social science and humanities approaches to environmental issues. So the goal of this course is to help you develop the critical thinking skills necessary to analyze and evaluate complex evidence, arguments, competing claims, and propose solutions to address environmental problems. We will focus more on concepts rather than content, which may differ from some of your previous academic experiences. If you learn only 2 things from this course, please let them be these. The first one is that environmental problems we face today are real, urgent, and complex. And secondly, all of the big picture solutions proposed to address these problems offer important opportunities, but no single approach can solve our environmental crises. We have 4 objectives through this class. So by the time you complete this course, you should be able to describe in general terms our 2 main global environmental crises, global climate change and the 6th mass extinction of life on Earth. You should also be able to describe the range of approaches being proposed to solve these environmental crises, including these approaches, potential and limitations. Thirdly, hopefully you'll be able to gain critical thinking skills necessary to evaluate complex evidence, arguments, competing claims, and especially propose solutions to deal with environmental problems. And finally, hopefully, through this class, you'll gain some basic skills necessary to pursue more advanced work in environmental studies and related fields. And while all of these are important, this last one in particular is very important to me. I really think that just teaching in general is using, my enthusiasm and knowledge to help encourage you to have enthusiasm and knowledge to be a lifelong learner and to be able to take what you learn, we learn together in this classroom and apply it outside, sometimes literally outside, but just to be able to do something with it. I don't want this knowledge to just, only mean something to you as far as just getting a grade. I really hope that this is something that is like actually useful to your lives outside this classroom. So moving on, we have some required materials. I will say all reading material or viewing material for this class will be posted as PDFs or links on our class site, GauchoSpace. And in order to access these materials, as well as watch lectures, if you are doing the asynchronous option, and as well as submitting all assignments, you need an internet connection and a smart device. So that can be a cell phone, a tablet, a laptop, a desktop. At least one of these things is required. If you do not have access to an internet connection or smart device, please let me know ASAP. I am always down to help students figure out how to work around technological issues as much as I possibly can. I remember when COVID first started, I had a handful of students who, either had their living situation change where they did not have, steady access to internet, or just never really had steady access to internet. It was always campus internet. If, we've been doing, that was a while ago. We've been doing, like I said, Zoom University for a while now, but if you ever have any trouble, with accessing any of those things, please let me know. I'd love to brainstorm a solution that works for you so you are able to do everything possible to get everything possible out of this class. So like I said, classes will meet on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 12:30. That should say 1:40. Sorry about that. You are expected to attend lectures live on Zoom as much as possible or watch the recording of it on GauchoSpace by the time of section, so your assigned section. All assignments, including weekly responses, the midterm quiz, and sections, all of these things will be based on lecture. So it's really important that whether you're taking this synchronously, which hopefully, a lot of you are, because I've incentivized it. But if you can't, for whatever reason, totally hear it, totally understand it, make sure that you're watching it somehow, because many of the graded components of this class will be based on me talking and hopefully my dog's not barking through what I'm saying. So one of these things is weekly responses. So each week, except the week of your midterm, I believe, you will reflect and respond to a set of questions regarding that week's readings, or like I said, viewings. There's video content for you to watch as well. Your response should be about 1.5 to 2 pages, and it'll be submitted on GauchoSpace. Midterm quiz will be at the end of week 3. At the end of week 3, instead of a weekly response, you will complete a 20-question midterm that focuses on the content covered in the class thus far. Midterm quiz will be completed and submitted on GauchoSpace. I don't have too much information on what that will look like. Will be timed. It will likely have some multiple choice and some short answer. It will, like I said, be based all on lecture and readings, and putting those two things together to form your answer, whether it is choosing the right multiple choice or like putting together a paragraph or two for a couple questions to reflect on the material. Then our final essay, which is 40%. So this will be due by the time of our assigned final. That's in week 7. You will choose an environmental problem that was not discussed in class from the Environmental Justice Atlas and research the evidence, compelling arguments, the competing claims, and potential solutions to solve it. More information will be given about this after the midterm quiz. So basically the EJA, I think it's just environmentaljusticeatlas.org, is just a huge, massively beautiful website that has a list of all sorts of ecological and environmental conflicts that are happening in the world. You can sort through them, but based on what is actually, what kinds of issues you want to talk about. So if you're interested in nuclear issues, whether it's nuclear testing or fallout from testing, or just issues of contamination, you can click on that. If you're interested in the environmental justice issues surrounding tourism and recreation, you can look for that. And on the website, this is an interactive map. You can use this kind of code. If there's many ways that you can go through the Environmental Justice Atlas. We'll talk about it a little bit more around week 3, thereabouts. I don't know, whenever I can fit it in. And we'll get that started. Okay, got to add a participant to our thing. Okay, awesome. So yeah, I'm personally very much love this assignment. I think that it does a lot of I think it can potentially opens up a lot of portals of discovery for students to think about what they actually care about, to potentially, depending on how they engage with the atlas, to maybe look at their favorite places and to see some of the justice issues that are going on there, and maybe makes some students aware of issues that they had no idea about, or starts as a jumping off point to even more understand some of the environmental issues at play. All of that is to say, we'll dive more deeply into this in a couple weeks. Another aspect that is part of your grade, it's 20% of your grade, is a section. And here is a picture of our beautiful and wonderful Billy Marino, who's our TA. He runs section. So classes are hubs of community. To promote this in a large online class, each week you'll attend sections on Wednesdays or Thursdays at the time you signed up for with TA Billy Marino. How this percentage of your overall grade will works will be explained by Billy. This 20% is all him. I do not know. He will just tell me the numbers, and that is great. That is his domain. And finally, what I think most people are most excited about is extra credit. Yes, they do offer extra credit. Yes, I think it is kind of, I think it's pretty juicy. I think it's pretty spicy. I think some of you will be excited about it. I'm trying to incentivize folks coming to section synchronously as much as possible. And in doing this, if you attend 17 out of the 20 synchronous lectures, so week 2 will all be asynchronous. Next week will all be asynchronous. I am going to be in Humboldt County doing a week-long internship learning about redwood preservation. I could not pass it up. Thank you for your patience. All of the lectures will be recorded this week, and you can watch those lectures. Basically at the end of this week if you want, but you can watch them next week. But all of that being said, if you attend 17 out of the 20 synchronous lectures, you will receive 5% added to your overall grade. What does this mean? If you go from an 89%, that's a B plus. Oh my goodness, so close to an A, but not quite. If you do this extra credit option, if you go to 17 classes, you go to 18, you go to 19, you go to 20, which would be great, you will receive a 5% added to your grade. So that 89% goes up to a 94. That doesn't mean that you're in A minus territory. That means you're in A territory, baby. So just keep that in mind. It is a way for you to get extra credit basically for doing what you need to do anyway. I also understand and respect that not everybody is able to do that, being potentially in different time zones where this feels like an impossible time to attend, or having family obligations of many and any different sort, having work obligations. Life is tricky, life is hard. In some ways, Zoom University has made it more easy for students to be able to pursue, their academic career. On the other hand, sometimes it's made it more difficult. I'm trying to make it as easy and as accessible to you wherever you are, so you don't have to attend synchronously, but I really would like you to. I really would like you to, because like I said earlier,
Yeah.
I don't know who was agreeing, but I'm really glad. I'm going to take it as you agreeing with attending synchronously. Attending synchronously will usually entail more engagement from students, in my experience of Zoom University for a year and a half. Like I said earlier, I would like to think of myself as pretty engaging, but I don't think I'm necessarily 8 to 10 hours of binge-worthy material. There's so much better material on Netflix or Hulu that you could binge in 10 hours. It ain't me. So I really strongly encourage you that if you are not doing this synchronously, that you find a schedule to watch these lectures asynchronously, while keeping up with the class. Of course, there's lots of reasons for that, but the main one is that all of your graded material, including your weekly sections and your weekly Gaucho Space responses, are all based on lecture. So there are many incentives. However, if you can't do that, totally hear you, totally respect you, and you're not losing out on an extra credit option, but you're going to have to work a little harder for it. You're going to have to write an essay of 5 to 6 pages reflecting on that's supposed to say environment described in a piece of fiction, and then you'll receive up to 5% added to your overall grade. I'll give you more information about this, but basically the environment is playing a role in a piece of media, media meaning a book, a comic book, a movie. I did have some students last summer do children's books. I think the Lorax is like a really obvious one. I am not allowing students to do children's books, so not like they at least have to have chapters, or they have to be a little longer, because there's only so much you can say about the Lorax speaking for the trees. Even though I love it, you have to dig a little deeper. So I mean, examples that students have done successfully in the past is what was it? Annihilation, WALL-E, Princess Mononoke. Let's see, the Overstory by Richard Powers. Like, there's tons of media out there that engages with the environment. Edward Abbey, the Monkey Wrench Gang. There's so many options. My only request is that it is not a children's book. The last thing about extra credit is that you can only do one of these options. So you can only get up to 5% extra credit added to your overall grade. I'm not here to make an 89% become a 99%. That'd be really cool. That'd be really great, but it isn't really fair. So yeah, limited to only 5%. So you can only do one of these options. Also in the syllabus, I have our schedule set up like this. So I break it down every day. You can see what you need to read or watch before class. So before today, it was The Past We Can Never Return To. If you didn't see it, it's okay. Definitely highly recommend that you do. I have a lot of reasons why. But I think it really connects to what we're talking about in this whole class. And then you can also see for every day the topic. So this is actually, okay, I just realized that we are looking at my at my PowerPoint for my other class. So yeah, you'll see in the syllabus what you're reading this week, but you'll notice that Monday we will not have, there will not be a lecture. Of course, we'll be doing this asynchronously. There won't be a lecture because we are observing Juneteenth that day. I will provide more information on Juneteenth if you are interested in learning more about the holiday. It was just added as a federal holiday. I'm glad that we are observing it, even though it was on the weekend this year. Okay. I have a respect policy, so you must be respectful to everyone inside and outside of the classroom. I aim to create an inclusive and safe classroom for folks to learn and grow in community. So while doing this work, however, if you show disrespect with intentional harm and no remorse, you'll be asked to leave lecture or section. Further issues will be taken up with administration. This hasn't happened to me at UCSB. I've been teaching, I think I've taught for about 6 years now, between 6 or 7 institutions. I've only ever had this happen once or twice. It was very unexpected, and it very rarely happens, and I hope that it doesn't happen in this space. We have a question, though my hovering cursor isn't letting me see. So person with their hand raised, what's your question?
Hi, yeah. It was just in regards to the schedule. Because on the UCSB calendar, it says that July 5th is observed for Independence Day. So I was gonna question if that's gonna interfere with the class or if we're still gonna have class that day on Monday.
That is a great question. And yes, it will be observed then. I will edit the syllabus again. I'll edit the syllabus again. Students are always better at catching things in the syllabus than instructors, I find. So I passed my syllabi around to about 3 different either instructors or professors, and nobody caught that one. That's really, really good. Thank you so much, Matt. Is it Madeline or Madeline?
Madeline.
Madeline. Thank you so much, Madeline. You made, I'm sure, the rest of your class very happy. So yeah, great question.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Oh man. Okay. I will edit that and put in our new updated finalized syllabus by this evening. But you have all of the links that you need for our reading tomorrow. They're already uploaded on Couchspace, so you're great. You're good. Respect. Just don't be a jerk. That's the biggest thing. And apply that not just to people who are in the classroom or in section, but also people outside of it. Don't say mean things about people that you don't know. Don't say mean things about people that you do know. Just don't say mean things. I also have a strange times policy. So this is obviously COVID specific. We are still in strange times, and we are living through some stretched out strange times. So many people's circumstances are different. Personal situations change sometimes very quickly. So if something comes up that impacts your learning in any way, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I will find a way to help you or find a resource that can. So I have a picture of a young me, a pre-braces me, a brighter-eyed and more bushy-tailed version of me, even though my eyes are closed, with my mom. My mom passed away May of last year, not of COVID. I was in classes. I was TAing. I was living my whole life, trying to live my whole life through COVID, and she passed, and it was really painful. It was really hard, and I had to drop out of classes, and I had to try to like plan a funeral for one of the loves of my life while trying to grade finals. And life is really weird just generally, but we are living through some really weird times, and I've known students, I know that this isn't, certainly not just a me thing. 600,000 people have died in the US just of COVID, on top of the normal other ways that horrible things happen to people and families. My mom didn't die of COVID. She had a stroke right before COVID. I think that COVID impacted her care. It was very difficult to try to figure out how to do that. So all of that is to say is that I'm very sympathetic, empathetic to what students go through, how life happens um, while they're trying to get an education. Totally here for you if you need to just talk to another person who has tried to manage during COVID. It's been really hard. It's been really hard for all of us. And I just want to say I'm here for you. If there's any way that I can make your learning process more accessible or seamless, nothing is seamless. That is not a great offer on my behalf. I can make anything easier for you. If it's in my power, please let me know, and I'll see how I can accommodate you. Finally, I think that, no, we have a couple more policies. I just need to let you know about disabled students. It's a program. So the history department, yeah, okay, I am definitely looking at my at my California history class PowerPoint. That's embarrassing. The environmental studies department will make every reasonable effort to accommodate DSP students. So if you're a registered DSP student and you intend to request a special accommodation, you should inform me within the first week of the quarter, or as soon as you enroll in DSP. You should also submit your request no less than 1 week before the scheduled midterm quiz. So by the end of week 2, please, 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 so we can plan for any special arrangements. If you fail to show up for your specially arranged exam, you will receive a 0 if you require DSP accommodations and have not yet registered with UCSB's DSP services. Please check out their service/support site as soon as possible, which is right there, also linked in the syllabus. Whatever version of the syllabus you're looking at, that link hasn't changed. I've already received a few DSP accommodation emails. I will follow up with you by the end of the day, and we will figure out what you need and how we can make all of this happen for you. So I have an email. I have an email policy. So when emailing me, put ES1, not History 177, in the subject line of all emails, unless you're actually in both of my classes, which I would not be surprised. There are some interesting overlaps between these two classes. Please put in ES1 in the subject line of all emails. Use your university affiliated, so at ucsb.edu email address for academic correspondence. Grade appeal. So if you have a dispute over a grade you received, you have the right to request a review by the instructor. I only ask that you wait at least 24 hours from seeing the grade before you write an email for clarification or an appeal. So please keep in mind, however, that an appeal will invoke a review of the full assignment or exam, which could result in an even lower grade. Yeah, I mean, I am here to explain grades. I'm here to explain any sort of potential, issues or concerns that you have with any comments or grades that you receive on an assignment. I just ask that you wait 24 hours. That's because Billy and I, who will be grading your work, we are usually grading a lot of stuff. We are grading a lot of stuff all at once. It may be hard for us to access exactly what was going on in the comments that we had for your work. So we just need a little bit of a break before we get back into, talking about what went right or what could have been improved in your work. Incomplete grades. So incomplete grades will not be given in this class except in extreme circumstances such as sudden debilitating illness. This isn't just physical illness, mental illness, of course, is part of this, or a death in the family. So DSP status is not a justification for requesting an incomplete grade or a grade change. This is part of the Strange Times policy. If you have any inclination that something isn't going the way that you want in your preparation for this class, don't wait until the last minute. Please reach out to me as soon as you can. I try to answer emails as soon as I get them, but at the worst case scenario, it's usually within 24 hours. So please reach out to me if you have any concerns, or if you're worried that you're not going to pass, just reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to see you succeed. I'm not here to do anything else. I'm here to encourage you and use my enthusiasm to try to light up some of your enthusiasm on the topic. Academic integrity. So failure to credit others' work properly is plagiarism, and this can have severe negative impacts upon your grades and academic career. Got somebody in the waiting room. Okay. Copy pasting text from a source and attempting to pass it off as your own writing is plagiarism. Attempting to pass off others' ideas as your own is plagiarism. Even if you are summarizing or paraphrasing someone else's work, you must cite that work. We will talk about this a little later in the week, just before you turn in your weekly responses, because you want to make sure that you are using people's other ideas to help form and elaborate upon and explain and defend your arguments. But I'm not really interested in what other people have said about what we were talking about. I'm interested in how you engage with what other people have said and believed to form your own arguments. So we'll talk about how to do that a little later this week. I think this is the last policy, and I just have to say it. So all of the materials you receive in this course, including those posted on GouchoSpace, are subject to federal copyright laws and university policies. Unauthorized distribution of these materials, such as posting them online or selling them to a third-party business, is strictly prohibited. I don't know anybody who would. The only thing that you feel free to send any link that is an actual link to anybody that you think would be like super interested in it. We have a couple of New York Times articles that we're engaging with. If you think that your friend or family member would really benefit from that article, feel free to send it. It's just there's a few PDFs that I am creating from books that I have. Don't send those out. But I don't see why you probably would. So, I just have to say that as kind of a legal caveat that basically all syllabi have to have. Finally, the syllabus, whatever version you look at, has a list of updated campus resources. I can attest to a lot of them. I am really fond of the Resource Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity. They are really cool. I'm also a big fan of CAPS, which is our counseling and psychological services on and off campus right now. Associated Students does a lot of good for both undergrad and grad students. When we're in person, their food bank is out of control, really great. I was happy in my first year being at UCSB to, advocate and work with them on a food justice project. So they're just shout out to Associated Students, but really all of these programs, all of these services are here for you. If you have any questions about them, or if you want support in any way seeking these services, please, please, please email me and we will figure it out together. So the last thing I want to talk about today, even though this is my PowerPoint for my history class, this is the only day where I assigned the same thing to both classes because I think it fits for both history and I think it fits for an intro to environmental studies. So I assigned whether or not you saw it. It's okay. I encourage you to watch it if you haven't, or listen to it. There's an extended version of it on John Green's podcast, The Anthropocene Reviewed. But what I assigned was a video essay called "The Past We Can Never Return to," or what is environmental history. So in it, he's talking about the cave of Lascaux. So in this, he talks about it, this cave as a Paleolithic cave situated in southwestern France, and it has some of the most famous cave paintings in the world. So these date back from 17,000 to 15,000 BCE, and this is one of the earliest examples that we have of art, really, of artwork, and it's in nature. So one of the things that the Lascaux Caves tells us, besides just very important archaeological, geological, geographical, anthropological, and art historical findings, is that humans have thought about their relationship with the environment and the past as far back as we can culturally and collectively remember. So the cave comprises over 600 paintings, most of them animals, made from human hands making paints from local plant and animal material to impress on the caves. So what does this tell us about, what does this mean? What does it tell us about environmental history? So I assigned this for a few reasons. I think it's beautifully written and a beautiful way to encapsulate what we do through history and through engaging with the environment with it. So the past we can never return to, in my opinion, at the very least, helps quickly illustrate the complexity of history and the intertwinedness that people have always had with nature. Even before the creation of history as a discipline in the mid 19th century, even before we'll get into other historical understandings of the environment, I believe next week. There have been so many different ways and waves of how people have engaged with the environment, and this is just one example, but it's probably one of the earliest ones. So while this isn't a history class per se, environmental history is something that we'll really be grappling with here throughout our 6 weeks together. So the choices people made regarding the past continue to impact the present and the future, especially regarding, the environment, which is a term just like nature that will complicate, but also natural resources. So history, sorry, I'm a history, I'm a student of history. I cannot escape it. But history is not just a list of dates that you're forced to remember. It's a process of change over time and place. Bill Cronin, who's an environmental historian, calls these changes in the land, that we will be talking about and that have and continue to have um, consequences that we're living with. So an example of why sometimes dates are important is, we have lots. The one that I brought up in my, again, California history class is that, California as a state joins the US as a union in September of 1850. But of course, California was California before that. The the date is important, but there's a long series of processes that led to that point, but also things that happened after that date. That date had ramifications for how the land was going to be used, how what the land that is now California actually means, how it can be interpreted, how people will use it. So, and then of course we have this date, this September 9th, September 5th, 1850 being a flashpoint that, while it didn't mean so much to some people, it ended up meaning a whole bunch to, for example, the multiple indigenous folks who had their culture their at times physical presences just completely killed off and genocided, which isn't to say that, of course, Indigenous people are not in the past, they are in the future. And that is actually going to be a decent, sizable component of some of the lectures we'll be talking about. But there are ramifications to history, is my point, that we will have to engage if we're going to talk about how we got to this point of being in the Anthropocene and living through climate change and the sixth mass extinction of life on Earth. And we'll have to engage with the cultural importances of a lot of these things that happened. So what I think is most useful in this video essay that, again, I hope you watch, is that I think that John Green is really showing that, you know, history is about feeling connected to the past and using sources and signs from the past. So in this class, we're focusing on this human connection, this human use of nature. But we're really going, at least in this week, we're going to be looking at the longer view of that. So I hope bringing the Lascaux painting into this kind of helps us think about those in the past, think about the different choices and different connections that they've had with land in the past, and hopefully in doing so, we can better understand the past, of course, but the present and future, and hopefully ourselves. So I also included this really pretty line that he has in it, which is that the humans of the past were as human as we are. Their hands are indistinguishable from ours. And he says that because a big portion of the cave is hand stencil art. And I mean, if you've ever been in an elementary or even preschool classroom, you'll see still hand stencil art. We've invented nothing, basically. So I'm gonna stop sharing because that is it for my PowerPoint. Oh, Billy, you're answering questions. Thank you so much. So I'll double check the chat, but since we have I covered the material that I wanted to today, I want to check in. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, provocations? We're feeling good. We're feeling great.
There are a couple questions that I couldn't answer.
Okay, can you lay them on me?
Read those. Let's see where I just put those. Victoria had asked a while ago, when will lecture recordings be posted in Gaucho Space, since we have to watch them before our section?
Yeah, they'll be posted by the night that they were made. So I'm finding that processing recordings from Zoom and then getting those recordings onto YouTube, very difficult, very time consuming. I might actually not become a YouTube person because I'm still waiting. I think this is hour 3 for my lecture for, again, California history to get uploaded. So they will be posted by, I mean, I would like to say by 5 p.m., but knowing me, it might be up to 8, but I will try to have them uploaded as quickly as possible. Other questions?
The other question that had not been, that I couldn't answer, that I think you had mentioned, but I missed it. Chloe had asked, is the midterm timed / synchronous?
I would like for at least the multiple choice to be synchronous. I need to talk to my friends at Gaucho Space to see how that's possible, and weigh it against the different requests and needs of DSP. If we have, you know, a handful of students who timed testing doesn't work for them, then I may just make it untimed. I need to hear from Gaucho Space. So I'm unsure. I'm unsure. Other questions? Isaac asked, has the submission portal for this week's weekly response been recorded yet? No, it has not. I am going to have it up tonight though. And I will have everything. I will hopefully have our whole entire Gaucho Space set up by the end of this week, but you will at least have up to week 3 set up by the end of this week. Other questions, comments, concerns? My last thing that I want to do, my role question for today, so I can track you as being here, is to tell me, oh, Natalie said you mentioned you're fixing the syllabus. I don't see one on Gaucho Space. It was part of the announcement, so you can see the old one on the announcement. You will see the updated one honoring Juneteenth and July 5th. Thank you again, Madeline. Really appreciated you catching that. That will be all updated and ready for you. And at the very top, not just in announcements, but at the very top of our Gaucho Space by tonight. Okay, awesome. So our attendance question for today, you can put it once you enter it. Feel free to leave unless you have questions, is this. What is the reason why you're taking this class? Please, okay, and even, which is a basic question, I'm sorry, I know, I'm sorry, but but I want your reason, aside from, I needed to take ES1 because it is a requirement, or it fit my schedule and I needed credits. Totally hear that, totally respect that, totally understand, school is has administration to it. We have reasons why we take things, but I want to know why intellectually you are interested in this material. Put it in the chat. I will be downloading this chat, and that is how I keep track of who is working towards that 5% of extra credit. So put it in the chat once you leave, and if you don't have any questions, feel free to bounce. And have a beautiful day. I'm looking forward to getting to know you all as much as I can in this Zoom University setting. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.